President Buhari says he's not interested in seeking a third term. President Buhari is to present 2020 national budget next week. In international news, Vatican offices of the Holy See and its Financial Information Authority raided by police. And in sport, Oduduru George Okon Ofili all crash out of IAAF World Championships.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. President Muhammadu Buhari has cleared the air on rumors making rounds on social media that he might be seeking a third term. The president says he's not interested. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Malam Garba says President Buhari will leave office at the end of a second term in 2023. Shehu says there are no circumstances under which President Buhari may seek to amend the constitution regarding the two-term limit on holding office as president. And the president has left today for a 3-day state visit to South Africa, honoring an invitation by President Cyril Ramaphosa for both leaders to discuss the welfare of Nigerians and other bilateral ties. The visit comes against the background of recent xenophobic attacks, the evacuation of 500 Nigerians, and exchange of visits by special envoys of the two presidents. During his visit, Buhari will also meet with Nigerians living in the country. President Buhari will also use the opportunity to reassure Nigerians that their government is committed to working for the protection of their lives and property and promoting peaceful coexistence. President Buhari will be back in the country on Friday to begin preparations for the presentation of the 2020 national budget next week. A social-cultural group, Afenifere and the People's Democratic Party, have criticized President Buhari's 59th independence anniversary nationwide broadcast. All parties say the president's speech does not meet the expectations of Nigerians. The PDP says Buhari's speech was completely unpresidential, lacking a patriotic stance and replete with manifest inconsistencies and contradictions. The party says Buhari had no clear-cut and operable blueprints to revamp the nation's economy. Secretary of the Yoruba Council of Elders, Dr. Kunle Olajide, and a former presidential candidate of the National Action Council, Dr. Olapade Aguru, also flayed the broadcast. Both individuals say the speech showed the government elite-centered. They credited the president with some progress on the insurgency, but they said as long as the economy remains in the doldrums, with poverty ravaging the people, security will remain a challenge. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has arrested 4 officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for alleged diversion of 84 million naira meant to pay the ad hoc staff that was hired for the 2019 presidential and governorship election in the country. The suspects are the Administrative Secretary, Hazard Sidi Aliyu, the Head of Operations, Hussein Jafar, the State Accountant, Abdullahi Yusuf Abubakar, and Abdulmumin Usman. EFCC Head of Media and Publicity Wilson Uhujare confirmed the suspects have been grilled for alleged case of conspiracy, breach of trust, and criminal diversion of ad hoc staff allowance. The House of Representatives has begun debating a bill that seeks to criminalize non-payment or late payment of salaries by employers. The bill covers both the public and private sectors and was sponsored by House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila. The Speaker defended the bill, saying news of workers being owed salaries for months was troubling and bad for a growing economy like Nigeria. He argued that the affected workers were being denied their rights. But Gbajabiamila says it infringes on the right to life, which is determined by the quality of that life. Shubham Kwaduru has been appointed as World Bank's country director for Nigeria. Chuhuru joined the Nigeria office on Tuesday, succeeding Rashid Bemesaud. Chavudu says his top priorities would be to lead the strategic dialogue with the government, development partners and other key stakeholders. He would also develop and implement the new country partnership framework and provide customized solutions and policy advice to Nigeria. Prior to his new position, Chawood was practice manager in the macroeconomics and fiscal management global practice for the South Asia region. Coming up, African stories. France pushes for removal of Sudan from U.S. list of states that sponsor terror. And later, international news. Police raid the Vatican's financial offices on suspicion of irregularities.
You are watching ANN.
Dear Mommy, you went out that night with the baby in your tummy, but you did not come back. The baby is very fine and she eats and sleeps a lot. Everyone says that you are in a better place, but I miss you so much. I keep asking them, where is the better place? But nobody answers me. Auntie Carrie just hugs me and says, go and play. Mommy, I miss you. Please, when are you coming home?
I still do miss you, Mom. And in honor of your memory, I'm a doctor today working with the MTN Foundation to save mothers and children every day.
Ending mother and child mortality in Nigeria is dear to us. We will keep strengthening this most important bond just for you.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now a quick look at events across the continent. France has offered to host a conference with Sudan's international creditors as soon as the United States removes the country from its list of state sponsors of terrorism. President Emmanuel Macron says this would help Sudan address its debt issues and help in its efforts to stabilize the country. Macron says this would also help the Sudan repair its battered economy after years of U.S. sanctions and government's mismanagement during the 30-year rule of former Iron Fist ruler Omar al-Bashir. Talks are ongoing between the new Sudanese transitional government led by Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok and the United States to see the country withdrawn from the list. Sudan has been unable to tap the International Monetary Fund and World Bank for support because the United States still lists the country as a state sponsor of terrorism. An alleged jihadi leader from Mali has been ordered by the International Criminal Court judges on Monday to stand trial on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Charges including torture, rape, sexual slavery, and deliberately attacking religious buildings and historic monuments have been confirmed against Al-Hassan Agbodu Aziz Mahmoud by an ICC pre-trial chamber. Al-Hazard was said to have allegedly committed the crimes in Timbuktu during a brutal occupation of the historic desert city by Islamic extremists for 9 months in April 2012. The ICC issued a statement that after studying the evidence presented by prosecutors, the judges had concluded that there were substantial grounds to believe that Al-Hassan is responsible for the crimes. Prosecutors alleged he was a key member of Ansar Dine, an Al-Qaeda-linked Islamic extremist group. The case against Al-Hassan is the second at the global courts to focus on crimes committed during the occupation of Timbuktu. Chinese tech giant Huawei has been affected by the trade war with the United States. Although it has managed to contain the negative effects of the rift, it has continued to do well in other countries. It is a major supplier of technology in Africa and has laid thousands of kilometers of optical fiber on the continent. Last year, Huawei generated almost $6 billion in revenue in Africa alone. 60% of that revenue was generated through the sale of equipment and services, and 40% through sales of its phones. Behind its success are Africans on whom the company has relied for developing winning ideas.
Steve Kamuya, a director at Huawei's Nairobi office, has been with the company since 2005 and is the company's longest-serving employee. He joined the company as a junior account manager and says he was attracted by the tech firm's work ethic.
One thing I liked about Huawei was the culture of work. They allowed the employees to grow by themselves.
And grow he did, taking advantage of the numerous training opportunities provided by the company, winning several awards along the way. The company's work ethic is based on hard work, a term Steve embraced and slowly rose through the ranks. In 2016, he was appointed director.
More responsibility, more work, more empowerment, and of course the benefits.
Huawei first set up in Kenya 20 years ago. The company has a deliberate localization policy that has seen them employ hundreds of locals. Including subcontractors, the man in charge of the Nairobi office says they have a staff complement of about 2,500 employees working in and around the region.
They work on some regional projects. So many of our staff are working in Uganda, Tanzania, other parts of Africa. So they are not just working only on Kenya projects, they really are at a regional or global level with some of the projects they're working on.
Local staff are involved in installation of equipment, support and tech solutions in development areas such as healthcare, education and security, among others.
But the local staff really are good, and we're really trying to focus now more on building the capacity of the universities to help increase their skill set so they can then improve those for students.
The company takes graduates fresh out of college for internships, and for many of them, employment is automatic. The idea is that many of them will follow the same path to success as Steve in their various areas of specialization.
With youths in Uganda's slums facing many social ills, an engineer, Robert Katende, has found a way to save the young from dropping out of school and saving them from early marriage. He set up a center in Kampala where he teaches them how to play chess. But not just that, the center sends indigenous children to formal schools when they are unable to afford an education. Katende says it gives young people the chance of a new life.
Giving chess tips. Robert Katende mentors young people in the game of thinkers. He's been doing this since 2004.
These are children who are, some of them with single moms, others are orphans, others even have parents, but I would call them irresponsible parents, that they are always on their own.
One move at a time, these children are hoping to become chess champions. And as they master the game, trainers here believe the sport will help them keep out of trouble as they shape their future. Having grown up in Islam, Katende is using his experience to restore hope for these children. Some of them are already applying the discipline of the sport in their lifestyle.
It gives you the skills, how you are going to plan for the future. You know, if I take this step, this is the result. If I take this, this is the result. So according to my way and the way I'm seeing chess is going to help me pursue my future. I'm now studying and my dream is becoming a surgeon.
The academy has produced several international competitors, including Fiona Mutesi, whose life story is a subject of the 2016 film Queen of Katwe.
It has really given us a marriage in terms of sensitization because people never knew what it's all about. Sometimes people would even say chess is just a gambling game, they just waste time. And right now they have actually embraced the entire work, the whole program, and even as for attaining this facility, it is because of the movie.
Through this program, many have gotten bursaries to further their education. To reach out to more underprivileged children, Katende has rolled out the program beyond the borders into neighboring Kenya.
It's basically to use chess as a platform, but by integrating the concepts and the principles it offers into the life of the learners, so that they can not only play chess on a small board of the pieces, but they can be able to play chess on the big board of life.
Perhaps with one move at a time, Katende hopes that one day he will not just produce movie stars, but the next Garry Kasparov.
When we return, international news. Police raid the Vatican's financial offices on suspicion of irregularities. And later, sport. Odudu, George Okon, Ofili all crash out of IAAF World Championships.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to world events. A report by United Nations Refugee Agency UNHCR says more than 1,000 migrants and refugees have died in the Mediterranean Sea this year. This makes 6 years in a row that this disturbing figure has been recorded. As a result, UNHCR has asked the European Union to bring back search and rescue operations and acknowledge the crucial role vessels of aid groups in saving lives at sea. Morocco State News Agency reports bodies of 5 migrants were found on the country's Atlantic coast near Casablanca on Monday. That brings to 12 the number killed when their boats capsized on Saturday. The EU struck a deal with Ankara in 2016 to cut off refugee and migrant flows to Greece from Turkey. UNHCR figures show departures now also diverted largely via Libya and other parts of North Africa have fallen sharply from a peak of more than 1 million in 2015 to some 78,000 so far this year. Figures from both the UNHCR and the website of the UN's International Organization for Migration show more than 18,000 migrants have lost their lives in Mediterranean crossings since 2014. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has sent his final Brexit offer to the European Union. He makes it clear that if Brussels does not engage with the proposal, Britain will not negotiate further and will leave the Union on October the 31st. Johnson told his governing Conservative annual conference in Manchester he will stick to his hard line on Brexit. He showed the first details of what he described as his fair and reasonable compromise. With just under a month until Britain is due to leave the EU, the future of Brexit is uncertain. Brexit is the country's biggest trade and foreign policy shift in more than 40 years. The ensuing last-minute maneuvers would determine if Britain would leave the deal without one or not exit at all. Johnson says Britain will leave the bloc unscheduled no matter what. His final offer to the European Union is an attempt to secure a deal to smooth the country's departure and avoid a potentially economically damaging no-deal Brexit. A Vatican statement has said the offices of the Holy See's Secretariat of Office and its Financial Information Authority, or AIF, were raided on Vatican police on Tuesday. The police were said to have carted away documents and electronic devices as part of an investigation of suspected financial irregularities. It was believed to be the first time the two departments were searched for evidence involving alleged financial crimes. The Secretariat of State, the most powerful department in the Vatican, is a nerve center of its bureaucracy and diplomacy and the administrative heart of the worldwide Catholic Church. The AIF, headed by Swiss lawyer René Brohart, is the financial controller with authorities over all Vatican departments. The Vatican statement gave no details except to say that the operation was a follow-up to complaints filed in the summer by the Vatican Bank and the Office of the Auditor General and were related to financial operations carried out over the course of time. Since the election of Pope Francis in 2013, the Vatican has made great strides in cleaning up its often murky financial reputation. Last year, a former head of the Vatican Bank and an Italian lawyer went on trial to face charges of money laundering and embezzlement through real estate deals. That case is still in progress. In May, the AIF said reports of suspicious financial activity in the Vatican reached a 6-year low last year. Officials said this continuing trend showed reforms were in place. Ecuador, one of the smallest members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, said on Tuesday it will leave the 14-nation bloc from January the 1st, citing fiscal problems. The country is attempting to increase crude production to raise more income. It has broken its output quota fixed by OPEC on multiple occasions. Ecuador produces about 500,000 barrels per day of crude, but it is struggling with tight liquidity because of a wide fiscal deficit and a hefty foreign debt load. It's reached a $4 billion deal with the International Monetary Fund in February, which allowed it to receive an immediate disbursement of $600 million and opened the door for an additional $6 billion in loans from other multilateral institutions. Since January, OPEC, Russia, and other producers have implemented a deal to cut output by 1 million barrels per day. The alliance, known as OPEC Plus, renewed the pact in July until March next year. Ecuador joined OPEC in 1973, withdrew in 1992, then rejoined in 2007.
Up next, sport. George Okon, Ofili, Oduduru, crash out of IAAF World Championships. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit. We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, Nigeria's Divine Oduduru came last in the third semi-final heat for the 200 meters race at the IAAF World Athletics Championships in Doha on Monday. That means they will not be in the final race on Tuesday. The duo of Patience Okon-George and Favor Ofili have ended their 400 meters campaigns in the semi-finals. Nigeria's focus will shift to the women's discus throw and shot put events today, with eyes on two US-based athletes, Chioma Oyekwere and Oyeshade Olatoye. The two will make their debut for Nigeria at this World Championships a few weeks after striking gold at the African Games. The Tigers and former NBA player Olumide Oyedeji has expressed sadness over the state of the National Sports Ministry. Oyedeji says the poor state of facilities and governance in the sector is worrisome. The former D-Tigers captain says the government has failed to provide standard modern infrastructure necessary to improve the game to compete with the best in the world. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.